Hey everybody, what's up? How's it going? Hope you're having a great start to your week. Now, before we get into this episode, a couple things. One, if you're new to the show, welcome. Glad you're here. What we do on this show is we talk about how to build your business. And this show is a lot about real estate, but that doesn't mean that if you are in some other business, you can't learn from this content. This is all about selling, about building your business. And we get into everything from strategies and tactics as well as mindset. Now, look, today's guest is a trainer. Now, that's interesting, first of all. This guy doesn't come out and say he's a coach. He says he's a trainer. And his goal is to change the industry. Listen to what he says here.
What I want to do, I want to create, authentic, consumer-centric, results-focused real estate advisors.
Today's guest, he, as like most of you guys, he just fell into real estate. He very quickly realized that the customer experience was wildly different and often not very good for the consumer. His goal was to provide a predictable experience just like any other big brand, whether it's McDonald's or Mercedes. Now, he built his business around that notion, and after doing about 300 deals a year, he just felt empty, right? He said it just didn't feel right. We covered that a little bit. Now, the industry we talk about, that from a consumer's point of view, this industry is commoditized. Now, what happens when you're a commodity? Price pressure, right? Price goes down. If you just compete on price and not service and not differentiation, that's rough, man. Then that's not where you want to be. And more, I'll tell you, if you ever go to a big, not necessarily a seminar, but I don't want to say anybody's names, but if you ever go to a big, let's just call it conference, right? Or seminar. What you will find is that this industry very much so is all about follow the leader. What's that guy doing? What's that guy doing? I'm going to do the same thing, right? And it's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Guess what? Everybody looks the same. And if everybody looks the same, sounds the same, smells the same, you're going to have a very hard time saying, this is why you should pay me more. All right. So today's guest realized that he wanted to change that, and he shares that, a very odd thing about this industry is that consumers will spend more time looking at reviews of flat screen TVs or of where to get great tacos than they will researching the person that's going to sell their biggest asset, right? There's this notion that, hey, you know what? If Julie can do it, Jim can do it, or vice versa. And particularly, now I will tell you this, if you are not a top producer, that is a good thing for you, because if the notion out in the market is that, hey, you know what, Jim could do just as good of a job as Toby, well then, hey Jim, you know what, you're gonna be able to compete with me on a relatively equal level. However, when people realize, hey man, I need a Toby, I need that guy Toby to get me the most money in the shortest time, well, then you're hurting, Jim, right? You're never going to catch me. So think about how you can differentiate yourself, your business. Welcome to Super Agents Live. This is the one place where you can come and hear the most successful people in real estate. You'll hear how these super agents built their businesses, how they stay productive, and how they stay motivated. Who am I? My name's Toby Salgado, and I made my first $1 million in real estate. Yeah. And I'm your host for the next 30 minutes while we talk to yet another amazing real estate entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Let's go! Yeah!
All right, so we talk about this episode. We cover a very wide range of topics, from mindset to why everybody and all of you guys should be able to calculate lifetime value of your clients. Super important. I talk about that many times in this thing. He also shares that if you can provide an upscale experience, you can charge upscale prices. That's it. You guys don't want to be like, hey, yeah, that guy will do it for 2. I'll do it for or 2.5. I'll do it for 2. Wrong. Who says that? Who says that? And by the way, in 8 days, we're going to have a new president. And look, I'm going to give you a gift, right? You guys know, we're in the radio business. We put people on radio. But if you didn't know that, you should know that. It's insane. Every week I'll get an email from someone who says, what? You do radio? Yeah, we do radio, man. We can help you double your business in 12 months, or we'll give your money back. How's that? Again, just playing with headlines. But here's something that we're playing with on radio. It's actually working. Do you know how early on with Trump, a lot of people said, if that dude gets elected, I'm moving to Canada, right? And I know of an agent, I won't say where or when because I'm not a big fan of this guy, but he did a giant billboard with that. Moving to Canada? He got national television press for that. So right now in your Facebook ads, in your emails, play with that headline. Play that headline. Moving to Canada? Let me know how it goes. If Hillary gets elected in 8 days, you only have 8 days to use that headline. If Trump gets elected, or just cause a bunch of ruckus in Q1, maybe you'll have you can use that headline for a little bit longer. All right, whatever. Listen, the end of this episode, today's guest built a course for agents, and he offers a $500 promo code. I don't normally do that, but I want you guys to listen to the whole thing. All right, let's get to it. You guys commonly are out in the world. You hear somebody speak, you go to a conference, you get all excited, and the next thing I know, I get a ton of emails going, you got to get this person on. That's how today's guest came about. Now, I asked him, I said, hey, man, what's the best way to introduce you? And he said to me, I have a passion for real estate. I'm a trainer. I want to change the industry. So, and what I thought, first blush, what was interesting, he didn't say coach. He said he was a trainer. So today's guest is Eric Putoto. Hey, Eric, thanks for taking the time out, man.
Toby, my pleasure, and thanks for having me and creating such an amazing platform for the industry.
Absolutely, 100%. So as you know, or may not know, but I always want to get a feeling for who you are, right? Who is the man behind the brand? So we're going to talk about what you think about the industry, what you're doing, what you're passionate about. But first, tell us a little about who Eric Putoto is.
Okay. Well, I fell into this industry about 24 years ago, and prior to that, I was a university student who traveled for a couple of years after graduation and trying to find myself probably more than anything. So fell into the real estate industry, had a extensive athletic background in college and whatnot, very competitive by nature, that kind of makeup, if you will. And within the first, 4 or 5 years of slugging it out in the industry like everyone else does, I kind of picked up on the fact that consumers in general did not have a very great or very good perception of realtors, and it bothered me a lot. And I kind of thought to myself, well, I need to maybe find a way to get better at what I do and kind of create some mastery in what it is I'm doing, because I want to be perceived and seen as somebody different. So about 18, 20 years ago, I started seeking mentorship and going to courses like a lot of realtors do, and it's something I've been doing ever since. And ended up owning a brokerage very early on, about 2.5 years in to my real estate career with a partner. That lasted about 8 years until our franchise agreement. It was a Prudential Realty franchise. When that expired, I had began building a team with my wife, and in 2004, we opened our own label called Platinum Realty with 4 agents. Actually 3 and my wife, so 1 admin and 3 agents, myself and 2 buyer agents. And we grew that to 14, 4 admin and 10 agents. And over a 5-year period, we're number 1 team in our region, and so on and so forth, doing close to 300 transactions a year, and ultimately achieving what I thought was success, and feeling like, well, I'm in the top 1% of agents in North America, so I am that somebody now, and so maybe I've accomplished what it is I wanted to accomplish. And then because I kept wanting to seek, and there was still something I felt like I needed to find, and I ended up in front of some mentors who really impacted my life in this industry. Is it okay if I mention them?
Sure,
Toby,
of course, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's important.
Well, the first being Larry Kendall, who created a program. You may be familiar with Larry, who developed Ninja Selling, and so I met him through Star Power, and he ran the leadership universities for Howard when he was still with us, and so I met Larry there and went to two different universities, and because I was just blown away by Larry, I just thought he was an absolute Herculean personality and just the salt of the earth and such an authentic individual. And I ultimately ended up going to Colorado Springs not Colorado Springs, but Fort Collins, Colorado, to where his office was, to do his training out of there. And then he told me about a fellow. He goes, we'd gotten to know each other a little bit by then. And he said, Eric, you know, I know what you want to do, and I get a sense that, you know, you want to kind of help people in this industry and move things along. And, you know, I kind of said, yeah, I do. And, you know, I'm passionate about what I do, but I'm concerned about our industry and its well-being and where we sit within, you know, the whole perception thing. And because it was still troubling me. And he said, well, you need to go meet a fellow by the name of Harold Ware, who has created a training in a company called Max Avenue. And
okay, hold on. I'm just gonna let's before we get too far down the path here, right? We go Larry and then Harold. That's fine. We can pick up on this. But here's what I want to backtrack to, right? Because because obviously, as we look, I'm not going to get weird about this, but the way that we develop. It's just a bunch of experiences, right? We have this experience and this experience. It gets layered on top, and all of a sudden, momentum and life gets in the way, and all of a sudden, we're this person, right? For better or for worse, right? But so we are a culmination of all our past experiences. Now, I want to go back to you being a kid, right? So a couple things. One, you're an only kid, and you shared that with me, not in this call, but a prior call. You're a competitive kid, right? And you're also an athlete as a kid. Now, one of the things that you said, right? You graduated, you traveled for years trying to find yourself, and then, Eric, you when you achieved that 300 deals, your top 1%, you still illustrated, exhibited. You told me that was shallow, right? Something was missing. There's something I needed to find. So let's explore that a little bit, right? So,
Sure.
this wanting, this not being fulfilled, right? And I can even tie that into you being competitive, right? You're competitive. You want to prove something to yourself or to the world. What was it, do you think? Is it proving something to yourself or the world, or how do you unpack that?
Wow. I guess, I can't really explain that in the way that I think you want me to, other than, I'll try by saying that, even though I had achieved that kind of success, it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel like, it felt like it was all about me, and it kind of, I think I had a bit of an aha moment when I realized that the industry was so agent-centric that, it became so obvious to me that, that this was all about us. And then it tied together with the whole perception thing, which I had another aha moment, and I'm like thinking, okay, well, this is why the consumers have this perception of us, is because we are so agent-centric in that everything about us screams that. I mean, we have companies who honor agents who in two forms: number of transactions and gross commission income. Which are no companies. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so I was just going to agree with you. So number one, this industry is and has been very agent-centric. I think it's changing, but I mean, there is no other industry, there is no other business where people feel the need to put their name on their business, number one. And number two, put their face on it. Come on, right? Ridiculous.
No, I mean, it's narcissistic. Let's call it what it is.
It's retarded. That's a bad word.
It is retarded.
You're right.
And so we have, just to carry on with my thought, it became glaringly obvious to me that, the consumer was left out. And then I started exploring that a little deeper. I go, well, okay, how does this industry survive with this sort of mentality and philosophy? And it's because, as you know, and your listeners will know, that approximately only 10% of homeowners will even think about trying to sell their home on their own, okay? And fewer will want to buy on their own, okay? So we own 90% or better of the market in an incredible industry, in an industry where that, you know, it is a necessity. It's one of the essentials, living essentials, and that's having a roof over your head. So we own 90% of the market, and people have nowhere to go. And if you look at, you know, if you look at our industry and look at the brokerages or the new companies on the block in the last 10 to 15 years, they all have one thing in common. And at least to my knowledge, I don't know of any new company that is not, in some way, shape, or form, a variation of a discount brokerage. Okay? So now these people come from within our industry and go, well, the consumers look at us like we're all the same, first of all, and it doesn't really matter who we hire, the outcome's going to be the same. So if that's the case, and I don't want to do this myself, then the only way for me to really find value from the consumer's point of view is to do this on the cheap, or do it through somebody who is not going to charge me less, which in and of itself makes no sense either, and I'll explain in a second as to why. But this is what's happening. And so, you know, the agents are carrying on doing their thing, and there's such a epidemic with lead generation and branding and all this stuff that has, again, is so agent-centric that it's kind of leaving the consumer out in the cold looking at us going like, what are they doing? Yet I have no choice but to deal with somebody. So we end up dealing with our friends or whatever. And, you know, the consumer is spending more time researching flat-screen TVs and laptop computers than they are agents who are going to handle the sale of their most expensive asset.
Right. Hold on. You're 100% correct. And I think, and I'm going to drag you back, right? We're going to go back in time for a second, but we can absolutely all agree, you and I can, and hopefully the listeners know this, that this business, everybody is commoditized. And when you as an agent or as an industry become a commodity, the only thing you can compete on is price. And I agree. You use the word epidemic. I 100% agree. It's an epidemic. It's because there are people out there starting these businesses with no imagination. They see what the guy on the other corner does, and they're like, oh, well, that worked for him. Let me do the same thing. Everybody looks the same, sounds the same, smells the same. All right, we'll pick that up. I'll write that down, commodity. Now, I want to go back here because, and I'll tell you why I'm exploring this, right? So, again, you had success, and what you told me a couple minutes ago, you said, we had a success, but it didn't feel right. Now, let me tell you why I want to explore this, and you may be bored, but mindset is such an important part of finding success, keeping success. So, and I can tell you, even if you are, as you know, you're the top 1% in the world, in the North America, whatever it is, right? If your mindset isn't appropriately tuned up to deal with that, you know, you're not going to keep it, you're not going to value it. So when you were achieving by all outward measures, success, why didn't it feel right to you? What was it about your mindset or the place that it just didn't feel right?
It felt like I was extracting from my clients. And it didn't feel like, I mean, though I felt like I was doing a better job than most agents, because I had sought to master some skills and to, you know, want to achieve, you know, fewest days on market and things like a higher list to sell ratio and higher sale price to ask price ratios and stuff like that. I started thinking about these things that I would call more consumer-centric statistics versus how many homes you sell and what's your GCI. Okay.
Do you think so? I think those metrics are useless, and it actually drives me kind of nuts, right? So how many homes do you sell? 330, meaningless in my mind, right? You know, what's your GCI? I have a client. We do radio, okay? We do radio. We put people on radio. We put people on television. I onboarded this girl this woman recently. And I do not want to give her name or location away. And she's like, "Hey, Toby, listen, I am almost at that 1 million GCI. I'm going to hit it this year, so help me hit it." And I said, "Okay, sure." So I thought, I don't talk in top line. I talk in bottom line. That's all that matters. And I found out that she was doing almost $1 million in GCI, doing about 750. She's only netting 150 grand, right? So you could be up there getting awards. Do you think that's a problem? Mm-hmm. You can get an award for getting $1 million GCI, but you're spending $900K on customer acquisition and running your business. You're fundamentally failing, but you're getting awards, and people chase that. Mm-hmm. Do you think that is a problem in this industry in terms of the way that who is put up on a pedestal for top line and not bottom line, not building a good business?
Huge problem. And the bigger problem is that we don't measure anything that benefits the consumer.
Okay.
That's a bigger problem. So, and what you're saying is absolutely true, because I belonged to a program years ago when I was building my team that was kind of designed to help people like me who wanted to achieve huge numbers and build teams. And I would, I was networking with agents from all across North America, and we would go to conferences and meet and so on and so forth. And it was like the holy grail was to find a way to net more than 30% of your GCI. No one could get there.
Wow.
Okay. So, and I'm talking huge agents that I know if I threw their name out, you'd know them. Mm-hmm. Okay. So these are not small players, and they're still killing it by that standard. Okay. But to me, it didn't mean anything to me anymore. And it felt wrong, because at the end of the day, why not differentiate yourself differently? I make more money now as a standalone agent. Okay, I have assistants? Yes, I do. They're all virtual. I do not have a buyer agent, and I do a fraction of the transactions I used to do. But every time I deal with a client, they become a lifetime client. I don't need to worry about lead generation. Why does an agent, Toby, who's been in the business for 10 to 15, 20 years, still need to concern themselves with lead generation? And it's a simple math solution, and the answer is that the people they're dealing with are not satisfied and didn't feel like they got any value. Now, you said something earlier about being a commodity, and that if we're a commodity, we have to compete on price. Well, is that true? Does the Ritz-Carlton have to compete with Motel 6? No, they don't.
Yeah, no, of course
not. People are prepared to pay for value. Okay, if I can demonstrate to a client, which I do each and every time I'm in front of them, that I'm going to get them 5 to 10% more for their home, because homes do not have a fixed price. Okay, so that fact alone throws out all the discount brokerages out the door. Like, if I'm competing with a discount brokerage, as soon as I explain to a homeowner that, if the top end value of their home is $500,000, if I mismanage, or they hire somebody who mismanages the home selling process, they could easily end up at $450,000.
Yep.
So when they understand that, do they care if I'm going to cost them $2,500 more because I charge more commission, or are they going to care about the fact that they have, $50,000 on the table that could go one way or the other depending on who they hire to manage the process? And it has nothing to do with the market, nothing to do with the interest rates or the economy. This is in any market, any time, any city, any kitchen table.
Yep. So you're speaking my language right now. So here's what I'm always. I mean, literally, I've put together whole episodes. I've talked for an hour about this, right? And I want to get your take, right? But my thing is, we all as business people, every industry, every business, we all should have a unique value proposition, something that is unique to us. Now, and again, not to go off on a rail on this, but if we can come up with something unique to us, we can. All our marketing is done. Like everything becomes easy, right? Our marketing messaging is right there. It's an easy way to say, okay, this is how I'm different from Eric, and this is why you should pay me more. But in terms of differentiation, right? Because you said if I can show them value, everybody will pay for Ritz-Carlton value. So explore that a little bit.
Well, basically, we need to, most agents, the agents that I train come to me after the fact and say, I don't know how I've lasted in this business as long as I have, Eric. And my answer to them is always the same. And I say to them, you've lasted because to stay alive as a member of the herd, all you have to concern yourself with is not being the weakest member of that herd. Okay? So if most agents have really no idea on how to sell a home, and no offense to agents, because I don't think it's their fault. And it's not the brokerage's fault either, because brokerages have lost control of the agents. Brokerages have become landlords, okay? And all they want to do is play nice and not upset agents, because if agents start leaving, they're done, okay? So they have to kind of appease and coddle. It's like raising teenagers.
Yeah.
Or herding cats.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't piss them off so that they're going to run away, but, you kind of have to have some semblance of order.
Yeah, no, hold on. I agree that's true, Eric, but don't you think so I a little bit disagree with you. I think the reason why most agents fail in 18 months, right? Or most people fail and most people do not thrive in this industry that is so easy to get wealthy, is because of the one fact that they're not doing the one thing that you're providing, right? They're not providing actual training, right? I think typically the messaging is at you name the brokerage, right? Coldwell, everybody it's here's your desk, here's the phone, you're on your own. That's it. And everybody's freaking out. They're like, I don't know what to do. And that's why again, like, people tune into this show and they're like, oh my God, you saved my life, bringing people like Eric on. But so don't you think brokers have a responsibility that they are actually dropping the ball of not providing training?
To some degree, yes. But okay. I mean, if the training sucks, what difference does it make?
Yep, that's true.
Because most of it does. And again, I'm not here to poke holes in people's systems and what they do or whatnot, but when you look at the trainers that are out there, the big name trainers that most brokerages, because I talk to brokerage owners all the time, seeing if I can help them in promoting what it is I do, they're talking about the fact that their group is taking this training and so on and so forth, and all of it. First of all, the trainer himself hasn't sold a home in probably 25 years.
Right.
Okay. Since before the advent of the internet. So that's how, what other industry would that work in?
None.
Okay. None. So now we're dealing with, okay, what kind of training are they getting? Are they actually getting training that is consumer centric, or is it about making them successful agent centric training so that they can survive? Because from the broker owner's point of view, they just want their agents to survive.
Right. Absolutely. Well, but hold on. Let me pile on. So I agree with you, man. 100%. The training they're getting is garbage. The trainers themselves are really in no position to be a trainer. Right? It's that old adage, right? If you can do, if you can't, teach. So I mean, I see a lot of that, and here's what I see, Eric, and again, I'd love to get your take. I think training or coaching, whatever term you want to use, people want to know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it, right? The sequencing. Mm-hmm. And most of those trainers don't know what it is, don't know how to do it, especially the new stuff, and maybe kind of know the sequencing. So here's what you go out and hire a coach, you name it, you give them $1,000 a month, you sign a 12-month contract, which I think is like not right. And that quote unquote training or coaching ends up boiling down to a coachability partner. Do you see that out there? Because I do.
Like an accountability partner?
No, but I sign.
Coachability.
No, hold on. I sign up for a coach because I want to know what
Right.
to do, how to do it, when to do it, and I instead I end up getting a coachability partner. Oh, how many calls do you want to make next week? Oh, why didn't you make your calls, Eric? That's not what a coach is, right? A coach is telling me what I need in my game right now.
Well, for me, it's all about creating mastery in what you do. I mean, if you have no systems or strategies on how to get a home sold and how to position, educate, prepare, position, and execute the home selling process, then you really have nothing, okay? And these antiquated methods of open houses, realtor caravan, all these other things that people do, thinking that these things are part of the home selling process, are wrong. But yet that's what goes on. So training to me starts with the individual, and the biggest issue I had with all the trainings that I've gone through, and I've gone through a lot, and the ones that I haven't gone through, I've trained agents who have and have picked their brains about them, so I know that there's this thread of consistency throughout them, and it's that they have this thing, okay, their MacGuffin or whatever you want to call it, and here it is, come to this conference, here's the whatever it is, the listing presentation, the amazing phrases and so on and so forth to deal with objections and all this other stuff. And again, it's all agent centric. I mean, the fact that we have to be trained to deal with objections is, to me, incomprehensible. I mean, what objections? If you are educating the client on the home selling process, they are going to devour everything you say if you make it about them and about what they want to accomplish. Okay, forget about you. Okay, that's the first thing I tell people is take yourself out of the equation. Okay, when you're competing for a listing and you know you're going in and you're competing with 4 or 5 other agents and you don't know who they are because it doesn't really matter. My question to these guys or the people I train is, what is your mindset going in? And inevitably, everyone is get the listing. And so I ask them, I go, do you think that the homeowner that you're going to walk into is not going to pick up on that? Do they not feel you? Do you think that you need to communicate that with them? No, they don't. They'll pick up on that. I mean, it's been scientifically proven we're 98% energy, 2% matter. We can speak to each other without opening our mouths, whether it's body language, what our intention is, so on and so forth. So when these trainers, and again, it just is what it is, and I think it needs to change. And I'm not bashing anybody. I'm just saying that there is a better way.
Yeah,
and
absolutely,
the trainers. Just let me finish this up. The trainers need to get away from just giving their students or trainees technical advice, okay? Because some of the technical isn't bad. It's not all bad, okay? But when you don't support that technical stuff that they're sharing with a philosophical, with some philosophical expansion about what, why, and how, and then support that with some personal development, because you can, you know this. I mean, 100 people go to a training, 10 people may be able to take what they got out of that training and become top producers if they're lucky. It might even be less than that. The other 95% are going to be right back where they were before they went there. Why is that? Well, because nobody worked on them. Nobody helped them with what it is they're struggling, because the analogy I use is if we put 10 people in a Formula One car, 9 of them are legitimate race car drivers, and Toby, I throw you in one and go get them, Toby. What are you going to do? If you can even get the thing moving, you're likely going to crash.
Of course.
But it's the same vehicle. It's the same vehicle that everyone else is driving. So why can't you drive it? Well, because you don't have the skills, right? You've not been trained in how to use this thing. So you have to back it up. And in my way of thinking, training needs to start with the personal development, philosophical expansion, and technical mastery. And until you get all three, it's not durable and it's not going to. You're not going to be able to sustain it.
Well, yeah. So I would agree, right? Because there are if we look at the disc profile, like for me, I'm 99D, 99I. I'm clearly a listing agent. I would not play well with buyers, right? And there's that other person who's an SC. Who is they're much more suited to buyers. So if you try to take that SC person or that buyer person and force them to, here's how to handle all these objections, right? They're gonna it's just not gonna fit. So I agree. You have to take the person, take what their strengths are, what they're good at, what they want to do, and then build their business around them, right? Just like that pearl develops. So I would agree with you on that. So let's jump to. Because the people listening can't, they are who they are, DI, SC, whatever it is. And everybody is always, what everyone wants to know is what's that technical stuff. So for you, I can see how your secret sauce is starting to develop, right? I start with a person and I start to hone their skill set to get to mastery based on them and where they are today, right? You're certainly going to train a 50-year-old lady who's been a mom differently than some 22-year-old go get him male who just graduated from USC. So in terms of mastery, is that well? Just unpack that. I don't want to lead you down a road that maybe you don't want to go down.
Mastery on what level?
There you go.
Three or the technical?
No, the technical piece. Well, no, but you can. Well, hold on. So you start with a person. How would you even explain mastery around the person? Because I wouldn't think that. I would think that it's just the technical piece.
Yeah, I mean, really, the mastery I speak about is more to do with the technical.
Okay.
I mean, to achieve personal mastery, I mean, that's you can work on yourself for a lifetime. And I joke around with people. I go, I'm not here to turn you into Deepak Chopra, but I will tell you, if Deepak Chopra was a realtor, he'd kick ass. Mm-hmm. Okay, because he'd be able to connect with people on an authentic level. Okay, and this business is about relationships. It's not about churning through people. Okay, it's not about how many can I get into my funnel so that I could spit them out at the end. And yet, that's exactly what it's become. And agents who have been doing this for 10, 20, 25 years are still having to generate a certain number of leads each and every year to be able to do the kind of business they did the year previous. Not grow their business, just maintain the level of their business. And to me, that's insanity. I'm like, what are you, a fast food joint? Like, is there any quality in what it is you do? And how is that possible? I mean, by definition, that means that the majority of the people you've dealt with are no longer wanting to deal with you. Why is that?
Right. Why
is that? You haven't created anything that they perceive as being invaluable to them.
Well, hold on.
The experience they had was substandard. Whether it was the fact that you placated them and let them list the house at the price that they wanted to, without even trying to educate them on the pitfalls of doing that. Right? Go ahead, I cut you off.
No, that's fine. I've been cutting you off this whole time. So it's. I agree. So it's either one, they did a terrible job, treated that client like a number, used them for that transaction, so they saw them as a transaction. Either that's happening and they're doing a terrible job, or they're dying, right? You have all these people dying off so they can't do another deal with you. Or what I see as more likely is the fact that regardless of the level of service that you gave them yesterday or last year, these agents are just not doing a good enough job providing value and continuing to build a relationship along the way. That's why they're not getting referrals, and they're not doing transaction 2 or 3 with them. And I think here's the thing, Eric, and again, your opinion, please. I think the whole reason why we know this is a relationship business, but we don't cultivate that relationship after the transaction, is the fact that we don't know this one metric, right? What is the lifetime value of each of your customers? And if you can predict, if you know the lifetime value of your average client, right? I do one transaction with them. I sell his house or buy a house for him. I get one referral, and then I do one more deal with them, right? That's 3 deals in one. And if we can, do you ever talk about lifetime value or no? And I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't mean to do that.
Absolutely, I do.
Awesome.
And it's at the foundation of what it is I train people to think.
That's awesome.
For me, that's a massive philosophy. So,
and nobody's teaching that, though. If you're teaching that, Eric, nobody's teaching that.
No, they're not.
Okay.
So one of the things you reminded me of that I want to make sure I share with your listeners is that there's 2 significant paradigm shifts that I believe we need to make. And one is, obviously, we've touched upon it, moving from an agent-centric mindset to a consumer-centric mindset. The second one is to understand and really understand that we are not, as realtors, are not in the service industry. Okay, we are in the results industry. And when you have a unfair advantage, as I like to call it, when you actually have systems and strategies that create different results, differentiated results, better results for your clients, they don't care so much that you're not in touch with them every 3 months after the fact, or that you're not bringing condiments to their barbecue, and so on and so forth. As long as they see you as someone who is differentiated and invaluable to them whenever they think about buying or selling or whatever, like if it's their own home or they want to get into revenue properties, whatever the case may be, you just need to be top of mind with everyone you touch. And the only way to do that is not through service, in my opinion, but through creating results that are measurable and distinguishable and that are relevant to the consumer.
Okay. So I agree, but I think we could go one step further than that, right? So results, in my mind, may be just a fantastic conversation, right? And because if I think of, and I'm reminded throughout this whole conversation, you and I, of, what a financial planner does. A financial planner certainly wants to get my business, but all he's doing is asking me questions, right? What are my motivations? What are my desires? Where do I want to be? And then he'll tell me how he can get me there. And if he can make a good case and be believable, I'm going to sign with a guy, right? And I think that's what agents should and can be doing, right? This is as you said earlier, the most expensive asset they will ever own. Well, why aren't you finding out their motivations, their desires, where they want to be in life? And if you can know that, and again, so I think in terms of results, would you classify a great conversation where I learn something about their desires, motivations for their future? Would that be a result? Or how would you define result?
Not in my way of thinking. A result, and even any transaction's a result. It's just, is it a good one or a bad one? Okay, but the point is that nobody cares, at least not in our industry, because it one way or another, it's a sale. Okay, so the agent can chalk it up as a personal sale. The brokerage gets to chalk it up as part of the sale that they get to use to determine their market share in whatever city or town or region they're in, and so on and so forth. But again, in that scenario, the consumer is left out. Okay, if that house's value, actual top-end value, because as I said earlier, all homes have a value range of about 10%. And, so the mastery I'm talking about is making sure that any time you list a home, that your systems and strategies are designed and geared to achieve the top 2% of that 10%. So, example, if you agree with the homeowner through, careful research and so on and so forth, and proper research, okay, because the CMA is something that needs to be worked on as well, because it's anyway, that's another conversation. So if you determine with the home seller that, I feel like we can get you $500,000, I feel like that's the top end of your value range. So if they're in accordance with that, and they're happy with that, and they go, wow, if you can get us that would be great. We'd be happy. We thought maybe we could get that, but we weren't sure. So it's encouraging that you feel that way. But that's not enough, because there could be 3 agents coming in behind you who say the same thing, who feel the same thing. But the point is now this is your opportunity to demonstrate to them how you're going to get them there. Okay, so I equate that to like planning a trip. So if this is their destination, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, now let's work it backwards and reverse engineer this, okay? Because nobody wants to do what I did after graduating, where very few people, at least not with the sale of their house, throw a backpack on and take off for 2 years and figure it out on the fly. But yet that's how most homes hit the MLS, okay? So a homeowner is going to want to know, where are you taking me? How are you going to get there? And how does this work? So educating your homeowner on your home selling process, first you have to have one, okay? And if you don't have one, well, this is at the crux of this entire problem, is that there are so few agents who actually have a proven home selling system that can create predictable results over and over again, regardless of the market. So if you're able to do that and you have this unfair advantage to be able to deliver that, then you can walk your clients through this entire process frontwards and backwards, and then hit the market when you're ready, when you've properly help them get prepared, you properly position. Now it's time to execute. In my way of thinking, Toby, what we do, 80% of what we do happens before the home hits the market. Okay, the last 20%. The last 20%, the execution is now you're just making sure that this thing's going to take off like it should.
Yeah.
And you've got your checks and balances, and you can predict, okay, did we hit this right? Did we overprice it? If so, what do we do? And there's checks and balances along the way, and people need to be trained on that. You don't just let a listing die on the vine and have your home seller come to you, 2 months later and go, well, showings have dropped off. Maybe we should reduce it. Oh, okay, yeah, great idea. Let's do that. I mean, we wonder why homes sell for the bottom end of their value range. Well, I just described the primary reason as to why. And I feel that most homes do actually sell for less than what they could have because the realtor lacks the systems and strategies to be able to create what it is I just discussed.
So look, I won't disagree with you on that because I don't. However, I have a different view a little bit, and I think it all comes down to, right, you said basically if I could boil your whole speech or sermon, right, your last few minutes into one thing, right? Educate that consumer, have systems and strategies for what you're going to do, right? So I think it all comes down to when you start this relationship building, education building process, because you and I both know, right? Lead to listing can be a long time, right? It can be a week, but it can also be 6 months. So in my mind, this relationship building, this education process that goes along, it happens at the lead process, right? We spend a ton of time. We go by radio. Somebody calls in. That's a lead. Now, all a lead is, in my mind, all a lead is somebody raises their hand and says, hey, Eric, I'm giving you permission to tell me a little bit more. And you have to take people all the way down to success, I get a listing. Now, right, you need to have systems and processes. So I think, again, you started at the listing phase, and I think you do need to have something once it gets listed to have an unfair advantage to get that extra juice out of the listing. But I think you need some kind of unfair advantage, unique value proposition at the point a lead comes in, right? And again, a lead, in my mind, they raise their hand and said, hey, I give you permission to tell me a little bit more. Would you disagree, or like what is your thoughts? How do you see that lead to listing process happening or taking place, transpiring?
Well, I don't disagree with what it is you're saying. I mean, you're talking about kind of your first point of contact, and sort of the incubation period, if you will, where you take people from their first point of contact with you to saying, yes, you're the one who's going to list my house. Is that what I'm understanding correctly?
Yep, that whole customer development process.
Okay, so first of all, what I believe is the worst thing you could do is try to convince somebody that you're the right person for them by racing through a to-do list or your that we do this, we do that, we do this and that. And, I call it this to-do list of accessories because, and that's, this kind of goes back to the branding thing and what agents are now learning that they feel like they need to do is pile on the accessories of what it is they offer because they somehow think if I can out-accessorize my business versus my competition, then I may be chosen over them. Okay, well, accessories don't create results in my way of thinking. There are certain necessities in the home selling process that do. So when we get into this incubation period that you're talking about, this is where we start taking the focus off of you, okay, and changing your intention, okay? Forget about getting the listing.
Yep.
Okay. Have no attachment. I'll go as far as to say do not have an attachment to getting that listing. Okay. Be something completely different because if you want to differentiate yourself, have that intention. Because right now you're differentiated because anybody else they're talking to wants their listing. Okay. Of course you want their listing, but don't make it about you. Make it about them. Help them. Find out what it is they need. Educate them on anything that get curious about what it is they want to know.
Yeah.
Have they sold homes before? What was their past experience like? Oh, it was bad. What happened? Why? Oh, okay, I understand that. Yeah, well, this is how I kind of deal with that. And you're going to get your opportunities to talk about your business, but do it in such a way that it's a conversation and that it's educational. Don't be force-feeding people about what it is you think you do better than the others. Okay, because leave it up to them to decide. Okay, they're going to hire you based on how they feel talking and speaking with you. And if you ever get lucky enough to be in front of them, they're going to hire you, also because of the way you make them feel. Okay, do you make them feel safe? Can they trust you? Are you believable? Are you being authentic? Is what you're saying make sense to them? Okay, like Simon Sinek talks about this in, Start With Why. He talks about why people make decisions. Okay, they don't make decisions from their neocortex part of their brain. It comes from their limbic part of their brain. That's the decision-making mechanism. And he talks about how people, even though it makes sense logically, it doesn't feel right. Okay, so, what this guy or gal is saying sounds great, but the feeling isn't there. They're not connecting with what that person's saying. Okay, they feel like they're being sold. Okay, so you need to meet people at that level, and this is why I start my training with personal development, and this is part of the personal development and the philosophical. So that's kind of where it begins, and that's the first module I cover with people is all about intention and all about leadership, because you have to be a leader to that person. The people you deal with are looking to you to lead them to a successful result.
Right. And exactly right, man. You said it, and I've been driving this whole for the last 15 minutes. I see, and I got thrown by what you said earlier about like all of a sudden I'm gonna have a plan of systems for after we list it, because your training, as you just said, your training starts with a person, and I think that all successful relationships, right, start with the person, not my features and benefits, not even my systems and processes. It starts with you, and I need to tailor, just like you tailor your training around the person. I need to train as an agent or as a salesperson. I need to train my pitch, right, quote unquote pitch, to that person. I'm gonna pitch a DI differently than I'm gonna pitch an SC. It all starts with a person. That's what I've been saying. I think that's what you're saying as well. Correct, Eric?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I mean, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
Perfect. All right. But
what I'm not saying is that you have to be a certain disc personality to be a great listing agent. I think, I've worked with all types, and they can all be great. They just have to get out of their own way and not make it about them. Okay, and once they learn what that means, once they learn that that they can instill some confidence, because we all have self-defeating beliefs about ourselves, and I don't care who you are. We all have these tapes that tell us, well, we shouldn't be, why would they want to do this, or why do I have to say this in order to get that? No, you don't. You just need to be authentic, and people need to trust you.
Right.
If you can get that far, you are going to deal with, most people you get in front of, and it's just that simple. And then if you can deliver results and have and co-create these results with these clients, they will never leave you. Okay, so this isn't about churning. Like, what bothers me most about our industry is that everything is so disposable. Clients are disposable, realtors are disposable. Well, I used him last time. This time I'm going to use her. That didn't work out. Now I'm going back over here. Forget it. I'm using a discount brokerage. And, and realtors are like, well, I don't really care if they don't come back because, and I'm exaggerating. I'm sure everyone cares, but do they? Do they really, really care? Because as long as they're generating leads, they feel like, well, as long as my hopper's full, that's what's important. And my belief is we need to get away from that. We need to look at what we create at the other end of the hopper. Are our people satisfied? And, if we get there, and maybe that's what, I think that's my why, Toby. I mean, that's what I want to do. I want to create, authentic, consumer-centric, results-focused real estate advisors.
Well, then that's awesome. That's awesome. And I think
that's what I want to do.
Okay, but hold on. So but finding authenticity is hard. I think, right? Right now we're recording this in October. Election for the new president's 2 weeks away, and Trump, love him or hate him, the dude's authentic, right? The guy's authentic, and there's a lot of people who've been craving that authenticity. So as someone who's sitting in their car right now, and they're like, yes, I need to be more authentic. I want to find people who are like me, who have a worldview like me. Do you find when you coach people on being authentic, that's not natural to people? How do you coach someone to find their own true authenticity and then project it out into the world, drag it along with them everywhere they go?
Well, I think, to answer that question, I think we're all built to be authentic. I think we grow out of our authenticity because of what we're bombarded with along the way, and we feel we have to act a certain way to get by and to be accepted and to so on and so forth. So we get into this industry thinking, well, I'm in sales, so I need to sell. Well, no, you don't. Okay, and if you want, if anybody's ever read any of Bob Berg and John David Mann's stuff and The Go-Giver and whatnot, for me, that's mandatory reading if you're in this industry, and it flips everything on its head about this whole thing about having to be a certain fast talking whatever and know your stuff and be able to. Like a Gatling gun, your client says this, well, then you retaliate with that and all that. It's not about that. I think we're all authentic, and I think we just need to go back to being authentic, and it starts with not having an attachment. If all you want to do in a day, Toby, on holidays is go sit on the beach, lay your lawn chair out, have a few beer, and not have any plans, not have any expectation, and just go there and sit, okay, you're likely going to have a fabulous day. Whatever happens, somebody might come and start talking to you. You might have some encounters with some people who are trying to sell you something on the beach, and you end up having a great conversation with them or whatever. But you're just being you. You don't want to extract anything from anybody else. You have no, list of things you want to accomplish or feel like you need to have this day look a certain way. When you can do that within your business, when you can move forward with a giver's heart and just say, look, I'm here, this is what I can do for you, but more importantly, who are you? How are you? Let's get to know one another. Let's see how we can make this work. Mm-hmm. and let's try to move forward and co-create something. And you know what? If I'm not the right person for you, that's okay too. Okay, but versus going in with I got to get this listing, man. I've got payments coming up. I've got this. I've got that. People pick up on that like it's nothing. And so you have to, by becoming unattached, and again, it starts with I call it your angle of approach. Okay, if your intention is there to serve, and you move forward into this appointment or into this correspondence or into this incubation period with these leads with a giver's heart and not make it about you are being authentic. And that's just, you just have to trust it. Okay.
Yeah.
People think, that's not possible. But how can that work that way? Well, it does work that way. You just have to trust it.
Look, your view. You've been doing this for the last 2 decades, and you, Eric, I know what you're expressing, and the way you're expressing it is a little bit just slightly off center from how I view it, and that's okay. That's or express it, right? How we would say it verbally. And I would, what's that quote? I'm sure you know that quote. What's that quote? Like, people don't care about something until they know you care about them, or what's that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know the one. Yeah.
Okay, can you say it off the top of your head? People don't know.
No, I don't. But I know exactly. I know exactly. So, I'd probably mess it up, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
So if you mentioned Bob Berg, and everybody who's listening, if you've made it this far, right? Because normally we're already wrapping up. But Bob Berg, the Go Giver, he's been on this program. Go look for him. It's a great episode. You don't have to read his book. Just listen to the hour with him, and you'll get it. But I'll tell you what, Bob, he's a big boy. The guy gets $25,000 to go and do a keynote. Right? He came on my show for free. And not only did he come on my show for free and spend an hour with me, I don't even know how he got my home address. We hang up, Bob. Hey, thanks, bud. Later. We hang up, and I get commonly handwritten notes from the guy sent to my home. Mm-hmm. I don't know how he got my home address. He didn't ask me for it. So Bob cares. And that simple fact of illustrating that he cares about my relationship, our budding, that matters to me. So, and I think that everybody, if you start with caring about your client, not caring about that listing, but really caring that this person gets the best realtor, the best person for them to get them the best deal, you're going to win every time. All right. So look, you and I think could talk for another hour. Nobody would listen to 2 hours. Maybe they would. I don't know. They always do listen to an hour. But look, so a couple things. I always ask for a book recommendation. And here's the setup. I'm an aspiring agent. I have $25. What book should I go buy today?
Wow.
I never key anybody up for this. I probably should.
Well, I think the Go Giver Leader or Go Giver Sell More. Go Giver Sell More would be good. I like, one of my favorite books is called The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz and Don Jose Ruiz, his son. Another great one would be The Authentic Leader by David Irvine and Jim Rigger.
Those are
kind of. Pardon?
No, those are normally I hear the same ones over and over again. I've never heard certainly Bob Berg's, but those other ones are new to me. Well, so everybody, let me tell you, I'll tell you this, Eric. I'm all about, number one, I love stories. Number two, right, I love hearing, here's the book I'm in the middle of right now. It's so good. It's Open by Agassi, Andre Agassi. Insane book. Insane books.
Oh, nice.
So get it. So again, everybody listening, if you want to get Bob Berg's The Go Giver, go get it. If you want to listen to Open by Agassi, highly recommended. You can get a free copy on us. Just use our link. Go to audibletrial.com/superagentslive. Sign up. They'll give you a free book. Go get them. And Open's like 18 hours. It's great. So before we sign off, man, here's what I want to know. So do you have, right, you've been doing this for 2 decades. You're certainly good at it. You've changed lives along the way. Do you have a morning routine that gets you up and out of bed that you do every day that has contributed to your success?
Is it something I do every morning? No. Is it something I aspire to do every morning? Yes.
What is it?
And that would be some yoga and meditation. I try to get the meditation in for sure.
I do too, and it changes. It literally changes me. I do it sort of in the afternoon. I use Headspace as an app. Do you use an app, or you just have done it for so long you can just do it?
Yeah, no, I just I've worked with some people who have helped me. There's no wrong way to meditate. that's the thing that people think. I've got to quiet my mind. Well, you can't. Mm-hmm. So forget about it. You just have to watch your mind.
Right.
And focus on your breathing, and that's really all that meditation is. So. I don't use an app, to answer your question.
I spent a week with a guy who trained with Deepak Chopra for 5 years. I spent a week with this guy, and would do an hour session a day. And the one thing I got out of it was, in terms of your mind, just see it as traffic, right? Just see it as traffic. Mm-hmm. And if I can sit down and just try to see my stuff as traffic and not try to stop it, again, it changes my day. If they've listened and they've got something out of this, I always encourage them, reach out and say thanks for you, right? This has been an hour investment of your time. I want to make sure that people appreciate it. So where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so Toby, I like to focus my trainings in the fall because it's the best time for agents to work on their business, because in the spring and summer we know they're too busy working in their business. So I have trainings starting in November, December, January, February, and March. So any of your listeners who go to platinumprocesstraining.com/3 mistakes, or email me, eric@platinuminfo.ca, will receive a $500 discount on the training, and just reference that you heard me on Toby's show.
Awesome, man. That's really cool. And as you know, I got to go, Eric, but I'll tell you, I love that you do these things in the fall, because you know what? We're all planning for what's going to happen in January. And if you look at, again, we could just keep on going, but if you look at pending volume, if you look at listing volume, it slowly dies off to the trough in December, and then bang, you get a spike in January, and it runs up to August. So I think it's great for people to go through this training right now to get tuned up and get ready to hit it hard in January. So very cool.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a 4-month training, so they'll be ready, hitting the ground running, and when the market's hot.
Awesome, man. All right, buddy. Thank
you, Toby.
Got it. Talk to you soon.